I was run over by the truth one day. Ever since the accident, I've walked this way. So stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam. Heard the alarm clock screaming with pain. Couldn't find myself, so I went back to sleep again. So fill my ears with silver. Stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam. Every time I shut my eyes, all I see is flames. Made a marble phone book, carved all the names. So coat my eyes with butter, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster, tell me lies about Vietnam. I smell something burning, hope it's just my brains. They're only dropping peppermints and daisy chains. So stuff my nose with garlic, coat my eyes with butter, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster, tell me lies about Vietnam. Where were you at the time of the crime? Down by the cenotaph, drinking slime. So chain my tongue with whiskey, stuff my nose with garlic, coat my eyes with butter, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster, tell me lies about Vietnam. You put your bombers in, you put your conscience out, you take the human being and you twist it all about. So scrub my skin with women, chain my tongue with whiskey, stuff my nose with garlic, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster, tell me lies about Vietnam.
It's an honor and a pleasure for me to welcome Adrian Mitchell tonight. Thank you.
Can I have that one back? Yeah, I have that back. Thanks. You never know. Okay, great. Yeah, a note of warning for a start. I didn't know I was going to make it tonight because I've been ill and I had to cancel a week's tour in South Africa last week because my lung was sort of playing up. But my doctor thought I could make Manchester. So, yeah, so here I am. That's to apologise if my voice is a bit thin at the moment. I can't hit all those high notes. Although dirty ones I like to hit like a trombone can hit. But Paul will be coming back and joining in a couple of these poems, I hope, if he feels inclined. I'll start off with this one, which is a kind of old one I did in Bulgaria, where they said, "What is poetry?" That was a question I got from the audience, and so I made up this one. Oh, look at those naked words dancing together. Everyone's very embarrassed. Only one thing to do about it: off with your clothes and join in the dance. Naked words and people dancing together? There's gonna be trouble. Here come the poetry police. Keep dancing. And that was what they did. What's this one? No, I don't think I'm going to do this one. Am I? Yeah, why not? I'll do this one for Chubby Checker. Who remembers Chubby? Yeah! Good. Anyone in from Bolton Socialist Club tonight? Yeah. Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah. Sorry. That's doing the popular bit, you know. The kind of Hillary Clinton. But Bolton Socialist Club is a great club, and you all ought to join it. Yeah, this one I wrote for Chubby. Chubby came onto the British Isles and said to the British people, "Behold the pelvis." And we said, "What? Pelvis? Oh yeah, we know Chubby." He said, "Behold, the pelvis is a movable part." We said, "Chubby, thou kiddest." But he showed us, and he taught us how to do it. And so we did the twist, and we did the mashed potato, we did the funky chicken, we failed with the scrambled egg, and several other impossible dances. And he made a lot of records about dances which nobody wanted to do, so I got worried when I wrote this one for him to do. I wrote this one for him to record because it's about a dance that I was brought up to do. And when I looked around the country, everyone was being brought up to do it. Still are. Come on, everybody. There's a grand old dance that's rocking the nation. Shake your money and shut your mouth. It's taking the place of copulation. It's called the bourgeois. See the girl with the diamond thing? Shake your money and shut your mouth. Did not get that by picketing. She done the bourgeois. Do-gooder, where you been? Shake your money and shut your mouth. Done myself good, got a medal for the Queen for the bourgeois. Is it a lover? No. Is it a singer? No. Is it a bourgeois? Yeah! Wave your missile around the vault. Shake your money and shut your mouth. Somebody suffers well. It's your fault if you're a bourgeois. I play golf, so I exist. Shake your money and shut your mouth. I'm on the ball and hand over fist. I do the bourgeois. 5 days a week on the 9/11. Shake your money and shut your mouth. When we die, we're going to Bournemouth because we're bourgeois. We're still doing it. I thought I should do a kind of very topical one. So I had to look back about 20 years through the files, and I came across this one, which I sort of like. Kind of country poem. There's one good thing about a cow's hat. If you leave it in the sun, it dries. And there's one good thing about capitalism. It dies. Okay. Well, we're watching the Jets, fellas. It may come back again, you know. The zombie may come back. Yeah, this is positive. This one. Yes. Human beings. This has been, I believe this has been set up in a British rocket because it won a competition for poems. I didn't put it in, somebody put it in. And won a competition for the best poem to be sent into space for aliens to read. So I felt ambiguous about that. Waking up, I don't know, yeah. Just suddenly started thinking, do aliens pay royalties? Human beings. Oh, look at your hands. Your beautiful, useful hands. You're not an ape. You're not a parrot. You're not a slow loris or a smart missile. You're human. Not British, not American, not Israeli, not Palestinian. You're human. Not Catholic, not Protestant, not Muslim, not Hindu. You're human. We all start human. We end up human. Human first, human last. We're human, or with nothing but bombs and poison gas, nothing but guns and torturers, nothing but slaves of greed and war. If we're not human, hey, look at your body with its amazing systems of nerve wires and blood canals. Think about your mind, which can think about itself and the whole universe. Look at your face, which can freeze into horror or melt into love. Look at all that life, all that beauty. You're human. They are human. We are human. Let's try to be human. Dance. we are now entering the education zone. So it was a really terrifying little bit. I'm very interested in education for reasons which may emerge from these poems. But the main reason is I have grandchildren, I have 9 grandchildren, and I don't want them to be corrupted and terrified. This first one is about the worst reading I ever did in my life. The worst of all. I was in South Wales. Not like South Wales. No, I'm nothing against South Wales. But it was at this enormous school in a place called Olchfa. The poem's called the Olchfa Reading. If I pronounce that wrongly, I'm glad. I had told Nigel Jenkins, the bard of Mumbles, who was my friend, that I wanted to read to a large audience. Yeah? I was led in to entertain the 4th and 5th and reject forms of an enormous comprehensive in a hole the size of a jumbo jet hangar. They seemed as multitudinous as the armies of Genghis Khan, but they were larger and hairier and less interested in poetry. I tried to read a few of my poems, but my political ones were dismissed as ancient history, my love lyrics scoffed at for their naivety, my banter greeted by 1,000 embalmed faces. It was a Friday afternoon to end all Friday afternoons. It was Goliath dressed up as just William, yawning in my face. The audience stretched from Wales to Florida. The front rows shuffled their terrible boots in their sleep, or read magazines with mutilated nudes on their covers. Further back, there was nodding anthracite. And even further back, they were tearing the blazers off each other's backs and indulging in Welsh kissing. Yeah, this was a bottomless sea there the Friday afternoon. A tall boy with several jam-stained bandages around his head asked me, "Have you got any horror poems?" "What sort of horror poems?" "You know, poems with rusty spikes sticking out of people's necks." I shook my head. The tall boy snarled and began to chew one of his bandages. Then a lobster boy in the front row detached a lump of pink bubble gum from his stubble before he asked me scornfully, "Why are your trousers so long?" That was it. I was on the train back to London. Didn't stop. Didn't say goodbye. Nothing. That was all fun. I can pronounce that. Helps to have a cold with all. Yeah, this one I should know, all right. It was a dream I had. I went to school in hell for 2 years, and at the end of 2 years I walked home and I said to my mother, "I'm never going back to that school, I would rather be dead." And she said, "Why? What is it? Is it the maths?" Because she knew maths could make me weak when nothing else could. And I said, no, it's more the torture. And she said, "What?" So I told her a little bit. I told her about 5%, because I was too ashamed to tell her anymore. Because that's what happens with victims. They're too ashamed to tell anymore than 5%. And she listened. She was a wonderful mother. And she listened, and she believed me, and she sent me to a little school in heaven, where they cured me as far as I could. I still got the scars, if you want to. No, don't. But you'll hear them in the poem, I hope. The scars, or 5% of the scars. That's all, because I'm too ashamed to write anymore. It was hard to write about, but I started to go into schools, and sometimes I would go into schools and they were wonderful, welcoming primary schools where, you know, they longed to write poetry and liked each other, liked their teachers. But then I would go into some other schools where you open the door and you could smell the fear right away, right? No question. Back in the playground blues. Well, I dreamed I was back in the playground. I was standing about 4 feet high. See, I dreamed I was back in the playground and standing about 4 feet high. Well, the playground was 3 miles long, and the playground was 5 miles wide. It was broken black tarmac with a high fence running all the way around, broken black dusty tarmac with a high wire fence all the way around, and it had a special name to it. They called it the killing ground. I've got a mother and a father. They're 1,000 years away. The rulers of the killing ground are coming out to play. Everybody's thinking, who they're going to play with today. Well, you get it for being Jewish, and you get it for being black. You get it for being chicken, and you get it for fighting back. You get it for being big and fat, you get it for being small, or those who get it for any damn thing at all. Sometimes they take a beetle, tear up his 6 legs one by one, beetle on his black back, rocking in the lunchtime sun. But a beetle can't beg for mercy. A beetle's not half the fun. I heard a deep voice talking. It had that iceberg sound. It prepares them for life. I've never found any place in my life worse than the killing ground. I read that in schools, and sometimes afterwards a kid will come up and say, well, it's happened, what do I do? And you don't know the kid, you don't know the school, but I mean, what I do say, and what I always tell kids in schools after I've read this poem is, if it's happening to you, if they're doing it to you, and they won't stop, I don't mean just one day, but if they keep on and they won't stop, you've got to get help, you've got to get adult help, absolutely adult help. You've got to talk to your parents, you've got to talk to your teacher. If all else fails, if your parents aren't interested or too busy, if your teacher doesn't believe you, there's always childline. You have a childline. You ring them and get help. You've got to get, adult help, and you can't really go much further than that, until you know the child. So I'm glad that poem is used in schools. What's the latest one I read? I've just been in, just before I had this lung business, I was spending, I was nearly said a year, I spent a month in Shetland, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world. That was wonderful. I was invited to go there to work with children in primary schools in Shetland, and I did that for a month. And it was marvelous. It just about killed me. But it was wonderful. It wasn't the children's fault. They were a delight. And there was one time when I went into a school, it turned out my visit, in which I did a show for children called 13 Secrets of Poetry, in which I unfold 13 brightly coloured bundles, and each one has a secret of how to write poetry. And I've done it all over the world, and I was doing it in Shetland for these children. But they told me, we've got the inspectors in today. We've got the inspectors in. So we have to take some children out after about, 3/4 of an hour. So I said, well, all right, I cut down my shirt to 3/4 of an hour, but they've got to stay for the whole shoot. And everyone was mad. The teachers were running crazy. And at the end of it, they talked, about 3 poems from the end. A guy came in, grabbed 4 children, led them out in the middle of a poem. That's how I opened the door and shouted the rest of the poem down the corridor. Hoping it might reach seats up. I don't know. But bloody hell. Was a shame and a pity. But the children were great. They went back 2 weeks later and they'd all written marvellous poems, so what the hell. Except the teacher, because she was so nervous because of the examiners, she hadn't managed to remember to write her own poem. But anyway, so I wrote this poem for them, and when I went back, I read this in the staff room, actually. I burst into the staff room and read them this, because it's a school where they, if you get a break, it suddenly seems like there's bombs dropped and there's no adults around. Anywhere. The children are all outside playing. Where are the adults? They're in the shelter. It's like I remember in the war. They're in the shelter, man. Terrible tea. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I read this poem there. Thank you very much. I'm not naming this school. It's not. It was the inspector's. Our school is the best in the world. When the inspectors came to inspect us, they asked me, "Who's in charge?" I opened the door of the staff room, and there were all our teachers, standing around the piano, wearing no clothes at all, and singing YMCA. No, the children liked it, the teachers liked it. I think I'll skip the next one, and I think we'll enter the love zone now. I was doing a reading in Latitude, which I don't know if any of you were at it, but I was very happy with that reading. I thought it was I hadn't been very well before that, but I sort of worked really hard to be able to be there and do it, the reading. And it was in the Poetry Tent at Latitude, I was very, very happy. It seemed to go right. I seemed to be telling people what I really know. But at one point there was a pause. I just got through the education zone and the love zone. Someone said, "Are you going to do any of your anti-war poems, Adrian?" So I said, "These are all anti-war poems," I said. "They're all anti-war poems, and they're all love poems too." Yeah? Okay. And we came to an understanding. It's all right. I was just on the edge of doing a sort of war zone. Anyway, so I did it. Anyway, so he was happy, I think. But, you know, that's very important for you to understand that all my poems are peace poems, and not all my poems are love poems, even if they seem hostile and even vicious towards my enemies sometimes. They're for love. This is my most famous love poem. I wrote it in 1961 when I was courting Celia Hewitt. It's called Celia, Celia. When I am sad and weary, when I think all hope is gone, when I walk along High Holborn, I think of you with nothing on. High Holborn is this very boring street lined with Gothic insurance offices. Anyway, I read that and it got published all over the place on the tubes. It caused riots on the Vauxhall line. And eventually, some people called the Blue Tones sent me a tape and said, "Can we use this slightly adapted in our new song Blue Tonic?" And I let Celia decide. And she said, "Oh yeah. How much?" And it was thousands of pounds, man. I got half the lyric fee for Blue Tonic. I've never had so much money for poetry. It's fantastic. Celia said, "There you are, you should write more like that." Anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, W.H. Auden. We were talking about him, weren't we? W.H. Auden said, "Poetry is what makes nothing happen." I think it was a bit stupid myself. Because, I mean, that one, you know, I was courting Celia, wrote that poem. That was 61. We're still together. Still very happy on our fourth golden retriever. I mean, that's part of the happy family, the golden retriever. I'd like to do a poem with Paul, if that's okay. This is a love poem I wrote for Celia too, and it's kind of remembering a garden. And I do like to do this for the musician because we're a little sort of spacey. It likes to go slow, this poem. It likes to have gaps, and it likes to make a space for a wonderful musician like Paul to come in and have his say. Yeah? Share it. Can we share it? Yeah, okay. It's called Maybe Maytime. There was a moment in the garden. There was a moment in the garden. Small green spiders trapezing down through yellow spotlights in that great green tent. Something was singing with the voice of apples. The breeze touched my cheek, or perhaps it was a fingertip. There was a moment, there was a sand path, pine cones scattered and swerving its way among the red bark trees with their polished roots. There was a snub-nosed rowing boat, stuck forever among hissing rushes. On the water's surface, a famous insect city. There was a moment, there was a voice, wild as your hair and gentle as your breasts, and a raucous old train rattled its way around the rim of the valley. Yeah, I might have been 5, perhaps 55. Could have been October, maybe May time. But I know it was you, my love. I know it was you. Because look, here's the mark. Right over my heart. Thanks, Paul. Oh, yeah. I never read this one in Manchester. It's called Love in Flames. It's a warning. Midnight, a dark and passionate scene. You whispered, come into me, quick. My hand reached out for the Vaseline, but it closed on a jar of thick. Love in Flames. This is the poem I like best, I think I ever wrote. It's about happiness, and that's hard to write about. I was living at the time in an old stone farmhouse over the border in Yorkshire, in the Yorkshire Dales. And I was walking down the stairs with my daughter. Beatty is 3. At the top of the stairs, I asked for her hand. Okay. She gives it me. How her fist fits my palm, a bunch of consolation. We take our time down the steep carpet way, as I wish, silently, that the stairs were endless. I mean, I got to the bottom of the stairs and I knew something had happened. It was a very happy moment, and I picked up Beatty, took her into the kitchen, said to her mother, Seal, take a poetry emergency. So I ran upstairs and ran down about 14 lines, and I cut off about 6 of them later. Yeah. And it's meant a lot between me and Beatty particularly, because we've had a lot of rows and awful arguments as she's grown up. And we still do, really. But that poem is always there, reminding us, you know, there's something more important than disagreements. It's about growing up. A puppy called Puberty. It's for dog lovers. It was like, keeping a puppy in your underpants. A secret puppy you weren't allowed to show to anyone, not even your best friend or your worst enemy. You wanted to pat him, stroke him, cuddle him all the time, but you weren't supposed to touch him. He only slept for 5 minutes at a time. Then he'd suddenly perk up his head in the middle of school medical inspection, and always on bus rides. So you had to climb down from the upper deck, all bent double to smuggle the puppy off the bus without the buxom conductor spotting your wicked and ticketless stowaway. Jumping up, wet nose, eagerly wagging. He only stopped being a nuisance when you were alone together, pretending to be doing your homework, but really gazing at each other through hot and hazy daydreams of those beautiful schoolgirls on the bus with kittens bouncing in their sweaters. Warzone. I love it. I love in a suburb. I do. I live and love in a suburb of North London. And where we double lock and treble lock the doors in case of burglars. But lovely, lovely bit. The city, very near Hampstead Heath, where I was going to say born, but I wasn't born at Hampstead Heath. It's just I remember it as the place my dad and mother took me to when I was happiest. It's my garden of Eden, Hampstead Heath, and still is. I walk there every day. The doorbell. I was in bed, the silvery light of dawn blessing our quiet suburban street, when the window darkened and the doorbell rang. Pushed my face deep in the pillow, but the doorbell kept ringing, and there was another sound like the crying of a siren. So I slopped downstairs, unbolted, unlocked, unchained, and opened the front door. And there, on the doorstep, stood the war. It filled my front garden, filled the entire street, blotted out the sky. It was human and monstrous, shapeless, enormous, with torn and poisoned skin which bled streams of yellow, red, black. The war had many millions of heads, both dead, half alive, some moaning, some screaming, some whispering in every language known on earth. Goodbye, my love. The war had many millions of eyes, and all wept tears of molten steel. Then the war spoke to me, in a voice of bombs and gunfire. I am your war. Can I come in? The War on Terror, chapter 13. There's a verse scribbled on a grubby green filing card found in a bunker on the Royal and Ancient Golf Course in St Andrews. Prince Harry is home from Afghanistan. He flew out a twerp, but he flies back a man. Do you feel safer now he is back? Or should all the royals be sent to Iraq? There's another one here. You see, I'm a poet, a shadow poet laureate, standing in for, Andrew Mortician would be here, but he's over in, he's over in Yorkshire at the moment, celebrating the death of Ted Hughes. Hello, that's very unfair. Got a great career, come on. This is another of my attempts to win royal favour. Prince Harry in Afghanistan. What did it say on Prince Harry's hat? We do bad things to bad people. Yeah, I remember Jesus saying that. Work to do, I'm a pacifist. If you're a pacifist too, you know that as soon as you say I'm a pacifist, a political person smiles and says, of course I respect your position, but, well, I say, I don't want your respect. How about your help? We've got work to do. And the political person smiles and asks the same stupid question time after time. wouldn't you have fought World War II to stop Hitler? And I say, no. And here's the reason why. Because I wouldn't have fought World War I, so Hitler would never have come to power. Don't you understand, after all these centuries, war gives birth to war, war gives birth to war, that's how the murder plague grows, unless we stop it. Yes, we've got work to do. And it sort of goes on like that. There's a bit which I sort of add to it now, because I was reading that on a panel. And there was a guy who'd written, an American guy, who'd been in the American Army and written a book of poems about his time in Iraq. It was a rather interesting book that didn't really take sides, and I wasn't keen on it. But there he was, and we were having this conversation, and I was talking about pacifism. Someone got up in the audience and said, Adrian, look, what if you're in your house and some soldiers come and they kick down the door and they're threatening to shoot your wife and children and grandchildren? And this soldier got up before I could answer. It was great. He got up and he said, look, I've been that soldier. I kicked down the door. I've walked in with my guns and my friends with our guns. And I tell you, if anyone does anything except lie down on the floor and surrender, they're all going to be killed right away. All going to be dead. So don't let's kid around with that sort of question. Yeah. So, thank you, American soldiers, for your pacifist speech. It's a help. We need all the... I mean, we've got to put this argument, because it's... how are we doing for time? What have we got? We got a quarter of an hour? Yeah. We got a quarter of an hour, okay, fine. I want to do this poem by Bertolt Brecht, which I've known for a long time, but I got the chance to translate it, to really think about it and get a translation which I really wanted. It's a poem which influenced me more than any other poem except the poems of William Blake, I guess. And I've read it often to teenagers in schools. Even the most cynical teenagers will sometimes find themselves smudging their mascara. But I remember teenagers saying, Adrian, don't you think it's a bit like reporting news of the world? I said, yeah, it's very like a reporting news of the world, but then you hear Brecht's voice coming in, and what he says is not what the editor of the News of the World says. So you listen to the story, and which is spoken through the mouth of a sort of lawyer of some sort. Not a bad man, somebody trying to recite the facts about the child murderer, Mary Farah. Mary Farah, age 16, no criminal record up to now. Orphan with rickets. Birthmarks, none. Killed a baby, this is how. In her second month, as she reports it, a woman in a basement room gave 2 injections to abort it, which hurt, she says, but the child stayed in her womb. But you, please don't be angry or upset. We all need all the help that we can get. Anyway, she says, she paid. Then laced her corset very tight, drank schnapps with pepper, but that only made her vomit half the night. Now her belly was visibly swollen. Doing the washing up was agony. She was, she says, a young girl and still growing. She prayed to Mary optimistically. You too, please don't be angry or upset. We all need all the help that we can get. Her prayers apparently were useless. Maybe she'd asked too much. She put on weight. At early Mass, her head was full of dizziness. She knelt at the altar covered in cold sweat, but still she kept her condition secret, till later on, birth took her by surprise. She was so plain that nobody imagined sexual temptation could arise, and you, please don't be angry or upset. We all need all the help that we can get. On the day itself, she says, just about dawn, She was scrubbing the stairs when suddenly great talons clawed at her guts. She was all torn, but still she kept the secret of her pregnancy. All the time she was hanging out the washing, she thought it out. She had to be delivered, and very soon. Her heart was heavy. She finished work late, then went up to bed. But you please don't be angry or upset. We all need all the help that we can get. As she lay down, they called her. Right away, sweep up the newly fallen snow. That took until 11. It was a long day. No time to give birth till past midnight. And so she brought forth, so she says, a son. This son was like all others that are born, but she was unlike other mothers. Though I find I cannot think of her with scorn. You too, please don't be angry or upset. We all need all the help that we can get. So, now I'd like to go on telling the story of what happened to this son. She wants, she says, not to hide anything. So what I am and what you are is clear to everyone. She just climbed into bed when she felt sick. She was all alone. She wanted to shout. She didn't know what was going to happen, but managed to stop herself, crying out, you, please don't be angry or upset. We all need all the help. The room was cold as ice, so she, with her last strength, crawled to the lavatory, and there, she doesn't know when exactly, gave birth to a son without ceremony. And just before morning, she was, she says, all muddled up. She didn't know if her freezing hands could hold on to the child, because the servant's toilet was adrift with snow. You, too, please don't feel angry or upset. We all need all the help that we can get. Between her own room and the outdoor privy, nothing happened till this point, she insists. The child started crying unbearably, so she beat it, blindly, without stopping, with both fists, and went on beating it till it was quiet, she says. And then she took it into bed and kept it with her all through the night, and hid it the next morning in a shed. But you please don't be angry or upset. We all need all the help that we can get. Mary Farah, age 16, died in the Meissen jail. What does this guilty mother's story mean? It shows all creatures of the earth are frail. You who give birth in clean and comfortable beds and call your pregnancy a blessed state, do not condemn the wretched and the weak. Their sins are heavy, but their suffering is great. And so, please don't be angry or upset. We all need all the help that we can get. I'd like to read this little dream poem about being old, and I wrote it in the week following the deaths of 3 friends, Tilly Laycock, John LaRose, and Ivor Cutler. It's not the one about Ivor Cutler, and it was a time when I was having a lot of dreams about the Yorkshire Dales where I used to live. And somehow the gaps in the walls, where the old walls are crumbling down, seemed a bit like the gaps in my friendships where my friends had tumbled. But I wanted to make also to explain what I'm trying to do. I write a lot for children now, probably most of the time I write for children. And I wanted to explain that too. Not defend it. It's called Sheepishly. between the fields of waking and the fields of dreaming. So many of those old limestone walls have crumbled down, gaps in the walls. Waking, walking in the wake of the waves of my dreams, waking, walking in the dawn as it dawns upon me. I am no tiger, I am no lamb. At 73, I am a senior sheep. High up on the dales by day, down flat in the swamps at night, daydreaming, moon-dreaming, shadow dancing in a Samuel Palmer countryside. But don't imagine I'm not working bloody hard for the New Jerusalem. I'm growing visionary sweater wool to keep the children warm. As I stand here, gazing at the gap. Visionary wool which will be woven into tapestries and coverlets and scarves and mittens of that great country city of peace. My wool is often wild, multicolored and exciting, but sometimes softer, creamy and comforting. Much of my work is done by mountain waterfalls, head low, munching heather, ears brushing the bracken, and a sniff of ice in the highland air. And some of my work is done on the rich green banks of casual, muddy southern rivers. It's not all the same to me, but I'm all the same to them. These meadows I survive in, frosty or fiery, celandine or olive tree. I'm happy to meander from one to the other, tasting so many different weathers, growing so many different dreams of wool, gaping at the gaps. This evening I'm watching that famous field, Anfield, on the television, hoping that Liverpool will score and Arsenal despair. From the cot I trundle out with my good dog to our dark garden, where I help her with my chanting to squat and piddle. Out of the garden, up the rocky stairs towards the stone stars, and into bed, where a few wings of a book fly me onto a meadow of dreams, where any animal can enter. Now the old limestone walls have crumbled away. Nowadays, I meander from dream field to wake field, from amazement to grumpiness, from vision to radio, from stupidity to genius, but I keep on keeping on. I keep on keeping on, growing my wool of many colors. Thank you. This is what I wrote about, because I said, now when you get older, you do think about death more and more because you have to deal with it more. But I don't want to get on friendly terms with it, but I want to get on speaking terms with it. And this one I wrote about death is smaller than I thought. My mother and father died some years ago. I loved them very much. When they died, my love for them did not vanish or fade away. It stayed just about the same, only a sadder color. And I can feel their love for me, same as it ever was. Nowadays, in good times or bad, I sometimes ask my mother and father to walk beside me or to sit with me so we can talk together or be silent. They always come to me. I talk to them and listen to them and think I hear them talk to me. It's very simple. Nothing to do with spiritualism or religion or mumbo jumbo. It is imaginary. It is real. It is love. We've got time for two more.
Yes.
Yeah? Two more, okay. Paul, will you come and help me with this one? Yeah, I have a couple. Ivor Cutler was a dear friend of mine, a lovely man, and a wonderful poet, and amazing comedian, visionary kind. And I wanted Paul to help me with this because it's to do with music and that. It's called A Visit to Ivor, and it's about a visit when Ivor was dying. We all knew he was dying, he knew. And he'd been in various homes now, but he always kept wandering away, and he kept saying, "Where's Ivor?" The whole of London would be turned over to search for Ivor. He'd be wandering, he wouldn't know where he was. So they put him in a secure ward in a hospital, which was full of troubled, mad people, which he wasn't. And there were a lot of screams and noise going on. It was an unhappy place, and I was dreading going to see him there. But it's a description of the visit, and in fact it turned out for me to have been one of the most wonderful afternoons I spent in my life. A visit to Ivor, for Ivor Cutler and all who loved him. The 7th floor of the Royal Free. In the television room, the screen was blank and silent. Ivor sat facing two of his favourite friends, Maggie and Joyce, both of them sweet and strong, with the sort of smiles make a man feel like living. Ivor's eyes seemed empty as he turned his face to me. But the more I talked, the more I knew he remembered me. I saw that sparkle. He flipped over the bright pages of the Jack B. Yeats catalogue I'd brought him, and smiled at the little illuminated Blake book. Ivor said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Writing for children mostly. Do you remember when we did a TV show and you brought some kids with you, Ivor? You marched them around the studio shouting their poems and told them, 'Speak up or I'll bite your heads off.'" Ivor said, "I don't remember biting their heads off." I said I was sorry I never took up his offer of teaching me how to play blues piano. Ivor said, "It's not too late. You can play." He raised his left hand and brought it down on his left knee, gently over and over. Then he introduced his right hand, playing his right thigh in another rhythm. And all the time, over the two silent beats, Ivor was talking about playing the piano, how the two hands walk together but differently. Then, with a strong gesture of his right hand, he marked a line down the middle of his brow, all the way down to his thighs, saying, "And this is where the humanity enters the music." It was a beautiful speech, softly and soulfully spoken, and we leaned forward to catch his words, but often they were interrupted by shouting or a wild cry from a nearby ward. Each time Ivor, who was in love with silence, flinched from the sharp noises scratching his brain, then recovered, regained his lovely speech about the beauty of piano playing. Joyce and Maggie said that on another visit they danced with Ivor. And would he like to dance? "Would you like me to dance for you?" he asked. We all said yes, like children. Ivor stood up, walked to the far corner of the room, waited. He was making an entrance. He backed against the corner, then stepped forth. He stood, head bowed, being nothing but a Beckett puppet. One hand was lifted halfway, then dropped. The other lifted halfway, dropped. He took two ancient steps. But then, at the moment when I felt like sobbing, somehow a bounce entered his feet. At the moment when I felt like sobbing, his hands were on his hips. He was flouncing along, swaying along, throwing wicked glances over his shoulder. Eyes sparkling like glitter balls. bleak television room became a galactic music hall for Ivor, the entertainer. He bowed his head to our love and laughter and applause. He asked us to stand up. Yes, sir. He moved towards the door. On the way, he paused to pat his 2 new books. Blake, he said. And yes, as if he were patting 2 favourite dogs. We said, goodbye, Ivor. Goodbye, Ivor. We do love you. I just finished with the one that I was asked about before. It's got a new introduction, so I call it To Whom It May Concern Remix, and it's got a kind of new exit strategy. Come o ye, warp-brain psychics, with asteroid sidekicks, prostate agents, plastic cajuns, raw doggerellas, cluster bomb sellers, alternative surgeons, plastic virgins, torture sport lecturers, heavy vivisectioners, columnists, golemists, priests of the beast who are secretly policed by high-ranker bankers playing pranks with tankers, ghost advisors, death advertisers, vampire teachers, leech-away preachers, beheaded dead bodies of black-eyed squaddies and billionaire beauticians, fishing for positions from poison politicians with obliteration missions. I'm alone. I'm afraid. And I need your aid. You see, I was run over by the truth one day. Ever since the accident, I've walked this way. So I'll stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam. I heard the alarm clock screaming with pain. Couldn't find myself, so I went back to sleep again. So fill my ears with silver. Stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam. Every time I shut my eyes, all I see is flames. I made a marble phone book and I carved all the names. So coat my eyes with butter, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster, tell me lies about Vietnam. I smell something burning. Hope it's just my brains. They're only dropping peppermints and daisy chains. So stuff my nose with garlic. Cut my eyes with butter, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster, tell me lies about Vietnam, where we knew at the time of the crime, down by the cenotaph, drinking slime, so chain my tongue with whiskey, stuff my nose with garlic, coat my eyes with butter, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster, tell me lies about Vietnam. You put your bombers in, you put your conscience out, you take the human being and you twist it all about. So I scrub my skin with women, chain my tongue with whiskey, stuff my nose with garlic, coat my eyes with butter, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster, tell me lies about it, Iraq, Burma, tell me lies about Thailand. Tell me lies about Afghanistan, tell me lies about England, tell me lies about Israel, Palestine, Iran, the USA, Africa, and Japan. Tell me lies, Mr. Bush. Tell me lies, Mr. Blair Brown Cameron. Tell me, oh, lies about Vietnam. Thank you for coming tonight.